It's true. But that image has been stamped on us because it's the image of God. God is just. God is righteous. There's no sin in him at all. God is light, and in him there's no darkness at all. In every religion, I would challenge, in every single religion, this concept of justice, it pervades it. All of the sacrificial systems, all of the karma ideas are all behind this idea of justice, of something's been bad and you have to make it good. You have to pay up for something. In our nation here, I still believe it is, downtown in Cardiff, there's a huge mural on one of the walls, and there's this woman who is standing there. She's supposed to be justice, isn't she? And she's blindfolded, so she's not supposed to be partial. And she holds out in her hand one of those scales, isn't it? And she's got one side here, and you've got another side here. And it's supposed to be that which is even, supposed to be that which is just, payment for payment, eye for eye, and tooth for tooth. That's the concept, isn't it? Justice. And that's stamped on us. Even as believers, that idea of justice is being renewed in us. Righteousness. To be faithful and righteous in the things that God has us doing, so that in our hearts we're doing what's right. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. This is important for us to understand, because as we come to the cross, we have to understand that God was doing a just act there, a just work there. Now, we tend as human beings to think we're okay. We tend to think as human beings that we're pretty good. We're not that bad, right? Yeah? Oh, bless you. We do. We tend to look around and think everybody else is worse than we are. And when someone comes and says, well, I don't think you did that right, what do? Well, we try to justify ourselves. Well, no, it's not my fault. It's blah, 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 and it's so-and-so, and it's because they didn't do this, and then we make up all sorts of excuses as to why what we did was permissible. We wouldn't say it was right. We would just say, well, it's not that big of a deal. It's okay that I did that, or it's not my fault. And that just goes all the way back where? To the garden, right? When God says, what did you do? And Adam rightly said, it's not my fault, it's the woman you put here with me, right? And then the woman said, right, it's not my fault, it's this snake here. So who's getting the blame overall? Actually, God is. God, you gave me this woman, it's your fault. God, you put the snake here, it's your... If the snake ever talks to you, just run. But when we come to the justice of God, we have this thing stamped on us. It's God's reflection on what He's made. God is just. He is fair. He's righteous. And that draws out from Him something of another characteristic, and that's called wrath. I'm hearing much in our day where people are wanting not to talk about certain characteristics of God. Somehow that shielding people from the character of God is a good thing to do. Those who know their God, they're the ones that will do exploits. Those who know their God will put their trust in. Those who know their name, know His name, will put their trust in Him. God is a God because He's just. Well, when it comes down to it and something bad is, God has to, it draws out of Him to do something about it. Now, God is patient, and so He waits a long time. But when it comes down to it, God will let the hammer fall. In fact, God will be the one putting the hammer down. And we need to recognize that. Wrath, the wrath of God, means God intensely hates all sin. He intensely hates it. It's not something that He's kind of like okay with. It's not something that He's just kind of like it's no big deal with. He intensely hates it. Now, we don't tend to really think of God like that. We think of God and His love and His mercy and His grace. Well, I would challenge that His love and His mercy and His grace shine in the backdrop of the fact that He's holy and He's righteous and He's just and He is full of wrath against the things that are wrong. Aren't you? If someone does something to your friend, how does it make you feel? Someone does something wrong to someone that you love. How does it make you feel? What do you want to do about it? Go fix it. Right? Blokes, right? Then we do that, right? Like you're looking at my girl again, I'm going to bop you one, right? Okay, right? But we get that way, and it makes us mad, and then we want to do something about it to put the situation right, to bring justice or punishment or discipline, whatever it may be, but we have to act. We want to act. And whenever you see the movies where somebody is there and something bad is happening, and the guy who's supposed to be responsible for taking care of the situation doesn't do it, it makes us mad. That's wrong. You're supposed to do something about that. You're supposed to protect so-and-so. Justice is supposed to be done by you. That's why it makes us so angry in our day when a judge is found to have been paid off. Because justice wasn't done. He didn't hand down the judgments that were necessary and right. That's because of the reflection of God's character on human beings. Messed up as it is, there is still something of it left. There's still something of it that still comes shining through. The righteousness of God, the justice of God, the wrath of God because of His holiness. This is all part of who God is. This is the way God acts. Look through history. I've heard people say, well, the Bible, the God of the Bible, the Old Testament is different from the New Testament. Like, not. He's the same God. Sodom and Gomorrah. God judged. Jesus reflects that. He said that to those that He was preaching to, they're going to stand up and condemn you because you had more light than they did. Nineveh, God was going to destroy. And what happened? They repented. And what did God show? Mercy. Jesus said they're going to stand up in the day and condemn you because they repented at their preaching of Jonah. So when we start looking at the justice of God, when we come to the cross, we have to see this as a judicial act of God so that we can be forgiven. We'll get there. But this is what happens. See, we have a conscience, which means with knowledge, and our conscience plagues us often. The Bible says that your conscience will either acquit you or declare you guilty in Romans 2. It's something that testifies even against you because, you know, when we do something to someone else, we're portraying to them we've got a good motive in why we're doing it. But inside, when we know we don't, what does your conscience do? It hammers you. Blokes, when you're nice to that girl and it's not because she's just a nice person, your conscience should hammer you. When you told that lie and tried to make someone else, trying to make yourself look good to someone else, trying to make it look right, your conscience, it should. Because it's wrong. And so our conscience needs justice to be done. So when we come to the cross and we get to understand something of the justice of God, it sets us free. I'm going to use an illustration, and then we want to come and look at this text specifically.